I have with me Laura McCreary, who's a writer and co-executive producer for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is,
Hello.
hi, let's say a new comedy this year, competing for the Emmys for the first time this summer. And you guys have already won the Golden Globe for Best Comedy Series a few months ago.
Yeah.
Now, awards enthusiasts, like the writers and readers at Gold Derby, we like to poke fun at the Golden Globes because they kind of just like to go for whatever's glamorous. But Brooklyn Nine-Nine is kind of a blue-collar workplace comedy. Uh, so do you have any insight as to why the Globe voters selected you guys?
No, I mean we were super shocked. Like we didn't the writers didn't even have a party together. We were sort of all just on our couches. Like Dan and Mike, the showrunners, were there and the cast, and we were kind of just at home like enjoying a nice Sunday evening. And then yeah, when Andy won first, and that was like amazing, and we're like, oh my God. And then yeah, it was a huge shock. And then all of a sudden the texts were flying and everyone's calling and the champagne is opening. And but it was new and maybe that's exciting. And I mean, it was the combination of they obviously liked Andy as well. I think he was doing a great job on the show. So yeah, but it was a shock for sure that maybe the only thing I can think is obviously they like new. They found it hopefully funny and yeah, it was amazing.
You're a co-executive producer for the show, so did you actually get the trophy, or are you just pawing at Dan's constantly, I guess?
At the trivia, I got one. Yeah,
Oh, you
the
did get one.
company got them, and that was super. It took a while. It took a few months. I think they like kept us on the hook at NBC's like they're coming next week. They're coming next week. But yeah, it's exciting.
So these days, dramas are trending toward producing like few episodes per year, maybe just 8 or 13, especially on cable, but also on broadcast too, with shows like The Following and Hannibal making
Right.
shorter seasons. Both comedies, pretty much all comedies these days that are on broadcast at least, which are still the big ones, are producing like 22, 24 episodes per year.
Yeah.
So do you think the comedies should be producing fewer episodes, or do you think that they will?
I mean, the cable model is attractive in terms of just lack of burnout and being able to sort of, and a lot like I have friends on that show Sirens, they almost have a lot of it written before they go shoot in Chicago, and you can spend a little more time crafting, the arc and the jokes. With that being said, like it's a mixed bag because it's fun to be able to have a full season where you can. I'm sorry, my dogs are
Yeah. Is he
barking.
okay?
Um, it's fun to be able to take the time to I'm catching up on Game of Thrones. That's one of my hiatus plans, and it just especially when you watch 10 in a row, you accomplish so much in those little 10 episodes. And the nice thing about 22 is you can sort of have a little more nuance in creating these arcs. I mean, not to compare those two shows, they're apples and oranges, but
One of our forum posters, Dennis from Brazil, he's asking why the show has paired off its characters so quickly or created romantic dynamics between them.
mhm.
I guess to that I would add is, would you say that is a product of doing so many episodes per year?
I think it's a product of just sort of the tradition of comedy in a way too. Like one of all of our favorite sort of models is Cheers, and like we're not trying to do too much of a will they or won't they, just because that's always a tough journey, But I think it's just it's a fun dynamic for comedy because comedy comes from emotional relationships and there's only obviously you have the Jake Holt emotional sort of father son boss employee dynamic, but the romance dynamic it's at the core of all of our sort of feelings and emotions. So it just allows jokes. It allows to put people in awkward situations that hopefully are funny and interesting. So I think that's part of that instinct.
Okay. One more question from our forum comes from Gambit from Ireland, and he asks if you ever want to do a proper gun battle on the show, or if you want to tackle something serious like that.
Right. I mean, that's always a struggle. Like we can sometimes get like there was an episode where Holt's enemy was out of prison and was sort of hunting him down, and we shot semi-dramatic stuff down at the railroad tracks, where everyone's out there and they're trying to kill Holt and Terry Crews saves the day, and we ended up having Charles shot in the ass, so you want to build those sort of tense scenes, but have ideally like a comedy outcome to it because it ultimately is a comedy. But we're always trying to, and we know we have to use it judiciously. Like the first thought in the room is like, and then Jake gets shot, and then Hulk gets shot. You know, like it's an easy and it's a fun thing to often to go to, but we're trying to be trying to be judicious with that because it's not, someone can't get shot every week as fun as it is. But yeah, so it's a mix like that. That's I think a good example of us trying to have a little bit of real gun tension, but hopefully with a comedy outcome.
So in Universal's DVD package that they mailed out to the Television Academy, the one episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine that they have included is The Bet, which is an episode that you wrote from the middle of the season. I've read interviews with Mike Scher, your co-creator, where he said that it's kind of the turning point for the show. And it's also like a very well-regarded episode among fans of the show. So what do you think it is about that particular episode that's resonated so well with audiences and also with you behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, that was an episode we struggled. We knew we wanted to end the bet. You know, we knew we wanted to sort of not be too much in the confines of that for the whole season. And we spent a long time just trying to figure out the perfect way to end the bet and the perfect way to have them go on a date that didn't feel like it had too many stakes of like a date, and so it felt light and it felt in character for them because we hadn't really been building a big romance. To have them go on, you know, a real date felt wrong, like that we hadn't really earned that, or they weren't ready for that. So we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what was the proper way to end that bet, and we ultimately landed on this sort of fake date so that Jake could still be Jake and Amy could still be you know, rolling her eyes, and you could play on his sort of immaturity, but you could also, you know, putting them on that stakeout at the end allowed it sort of a real date moment, but it felt in the confines of their police work, so you didn't have to have them at a romantic dinner or at a traditional date, but you could still get that intimacy. So we fought to find that like balance for a long time, and then, you know, ultimately we were all happy with the way it turned out, and you were able to explain how they made the bet, I think, in a fun way, and tie it off, but still sort of realize that, you know, Jake had feelings for Amy, and we debated also whether or not Amy should know at the end, when that moment when Holt tells her that Jake canceled the crew, the extra, you know, the relief team. But we sort of wanted her to have that edge, you know, and over that she should know. So I just think it played into their dynamic, like it built on their dynamic in a way that didn't rush into it too much, hopefully. And you know, and just the comedy of Charles in that scene with the truth bombs, like, and we gave Holt some of his earlier jokes, like the joke where he fakes getting the text is one of my favorites. Like, we're sort of starting to play with his sort of dry, awkward joking, and I thought that he was amazing at that, Andre Braugher. Like, so I just think it was a good, like I said, Jake Amy. It was trying to find that sort of seasonal turning point for them to figure out where they were, to get to the, you know, finale where he finally says, "I kind of liked you. I wish something romantic styles would have happened." So yeah, I just think it turned out, you know, and the director was great in that episode, Julian. We had a good time. That was a all night shoot too, so that's always like a fun energy. Like, it's exhausting, but it was like a true night shoot at the end of that stakeout. So that was fun too. You know, hopefully we just sort of found that balance of trying to play them on a date without it being a date. You know.
Given that Andy Samberg is part of The Lonely Island, and you know, he's already an Emmy winner for Dick in a Box.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to incorporate his musical talents, songwriting ability into the show?
You know, it's funny. We always are trying to sort of get him to. We're trying to figure out a way we can write in something where he sings or raps, but we haven't really gone there yet. You know, it's a tough. We're trying to make sure it's Jake doing it and not Andy Samberg doing it, and we haven't found the perfect. You know, we want to establish Jake obviously first.
Okay, so on behalf of Gold Derby, thank you, Laura, for chatting, and
nice meeting you, Riley.
Best of luck to Brooklyn Nine-Nine at this summer's Emmys and in your second season coming up this fall.
Cool. Thanks so much.